All right, yeah. Okay. All right. So this is ISUPK Delaware Thursday night class. I'm holding it down for Officer Matata tonight. Um, Pretty much, man. You know what I mean. We'll go tonight. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go into the siege of Jerusalem. So, what do you know about it?
The siege,
You never heard about the siege of Jerusalem? Okay, so let's get it in the scriptures. All right. Let's go to Slakia. Let's go to um Luke. I think it's Luke 21. I'm gonna have Mike read it. Because that way, Luke 21 and 20, I believe. Yeah, Most High in Christ. So Luke 21 and 20. All right, who we got in here tonight, man? Who's in class? Who wants their all right, Thusiyam. Okay, so we're gonna give Thusiyam some credit for being here tonight. All right. Luke 21 and 20.
Ready for it?
Yeah, you got it, warrior.
Luke chapter 21, verse 20.
Mm-hmm.
And when ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh.
All right, so what does it mean? What is desolation? Kazakawa?
Desolation.
Yeah.
Is basically
The
the state of destruction.
Right. Taziala, can you grab me a cup, please? If you don't mind. The water, I appreciate it. All right, we'll say it one more time, please.
The state of the level of destruction.
Right. Right. So and then what is that? What does nigh mean?
That means like none, I would guess.
No. It means near. Near. You ever heard somebody say that woman is naive?
Right.
They're saying she's near Eve. Because what was Eve? Eve got beguiled in the garden. So it's kind of like a term we use today. We be like, man, that girl naive, man, or that brother there is naive. Like, you know what I mean? That's basically what you're saying. You're saying that brother is near Eve. He's the same. He doesn't, he's about to get fooled or whatever by somebody because he's naive, right? So when it said that the desolation thereof, it says, and this is a future prophecy that Christ is talking about. He's saying, when you see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh. You know that the destruction is coming. Right? Read on.
Verse 21. Then let them which are in Judea flee to the mountains.
Then let them which are in Judea. Yeah, flee to the mountains. So what he's saying is, let them which are in there, right? When you see when you see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the destruction is coming. But if you're there in Judea, then flee to the mountains, right? What's that other scripture that shows about the mountains? But I believe, okay, so so now with this, it's another one where he said he went to Egypt, right? It was somewhere like that. But so he said flee to the mountains. Read on.
And let them which are in the midst of it depart out.
Mm-hmm.
And let them not that are in the countries enter thereinto.
Right. So if you're there in Judea, when you see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then flee, roll out. But if you in another country that you're living in, don't come back here. Don't come back to Jerusalem. Just stay out. You know what I mean? Because it's going down. So he's trying to warn the people. All right, keep reading.
Verse 22. For these be the days of vengeance.
For these be the what?
For these be the days of vengeance.
Uh-huh.
That all things which are written may be fulfilled.
Right. So this is everything that was written about, you know what I mean? That's written down, the future prophecies, all this has to be fulfilled. And in this time, he's letting everybody know, like, this is what's going to happen, right? Judea is going to fall, basically. Right? Go ahead.
Verse 23. But woe unto them that are with child,
mm-hmm.
and to them that give suck. In those days, For there shall be great distress in the land.
Right. So it says, woe to them that are with child. So the women that are going to be pregnant at this time when this is going on, meaning that it's going to be destruction to those women who are with child. And it says, and to them that give suck, those are the little kids, the children, right? And in those days, for there shall be a great distress in the land and wrath upon this people. All right. Keep reading.
Verse 24. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations.
Into what?
Into all nations. And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles.
Trodden down.
Trodden down.
Right. So okay. So he's going to read it. Mataji Allah is going to read it in the Babylon and Timbuktu. All right. I think it might be page 85 or 84.
84.
Mm-hmm. Book of this is From Babylon to Timbuktu by Rudolph R. Winsor. Page 84. Middle paragraph. In the year 65 BC, the Roman armies under General Pompey captured Jerusalem.
Right. So at this time, Pompey was in power. Right now, because man, I could go into it, but without having to go too deep into it, you had Caracas, you had Augustus Caesar, and you had Pompey, General Pompey. Pompey represented the military arm of Jerusalem. I mean, not Jerusalem, of Rome, right? So that's where you had the red, the white, and the blue, right? So so you had the red that represented the army, right? The white represented like the judges, right? And then or black will represent the judges or the priests, right? So because that represented that they were impartial. So you know how like when you watch a football game and the referee has white and black on. It directly comes from Rome because he's saying, I'm impartial. I'm not on either side, right? And then the blue represented the civil authority in Rome. So that's why cops today are the what? The boys in, right, because they represented the civil authority. So they basically didn't go out to war. They stayed and made Rome safe. And then you had the military would go out. But Pompey was in power at this time. Go ahead.
In 70 AD, General Vespasian and his son Titus put an end to the Jewish state.
Right. So you had Vespasian. Vespasian was a general in the army, but he had a son who was an officer, like an officer in the army, which name was Titus. Right. So when they went out to Jerusalem, they went with like the most at that time was like a sophisticated way of fighting. Right. Like Rome wasn't no joke back in the day. Rome would be just like America is today back then. So what they had it was called the Siege of Jerusalem. Right. The same way that today, what they call it? Operation Iraqi Freedom, Operation Desert Storm,
right?
All these different wars that they have. But back then it was the Siege of Jerusalem, right? Go ahead.
With great slaughter. During the period of the military governors of Palestine, many outrages and atrocities were committed against the residue of the people.
Right. So you had Rome, but then you had people that was in power from Rome over the Jews, right? You had military governors, Palestine. So you had people that were in power, like Pontius Pilate. You had people that were like who else? Salakia. It doesn't quite ring a bell, but you had who was the ones that was in power? Oh man, but they had I can't even think of it. Salakia, but they had people that was in power over the Jews. You know what I mean? At that time, and they had like you ever heard of the Pontifex Maximus? Damn, no, maybe I'm going too deep into it.
Caiaphas
Yeah, Caiaphas.
Herod,
Yeah, like all of those people. What's the other one, man? Herod. That's who I was thinking about. Like Herod and all those type of people who were over the Jews.
Right.
But they were white people.
Right.
You know what I mean? That was ruling. They were the military, like they were the governors over Palestine. Right? Go ahead.
Oh God. During the period from Pompey to Julius, it has been estimated that over 1 million Jews fled into Africa, fleeing from Roman persecution and slavery.
Right. So what Christ is telling everybody is that this is going to happen. So when you see this comes, you know what's going on. So those people that is talking about in this book, they remembered. You know what I mean? They remember. Now this happened long after Christ was already dead. You know, Christ had already passed away. He was already gone. But those people remembered. You know what I mean? A lot of those people remembered by, just, oral tradition and, people passing it down. But they knew. So those people, when they seen Rome coming, they rolled out automatically. They just rolled. They didn't even get caught up like that because they was already on it. Then you had people that wasn't even there. The people that was in these other countries that was just not there. Go ahead. And so this right here, I'm going to play a video that's going to show you, and it's going to illustrate. Now, the people is white in the thing, right? But we all know that the side trying to get in is the oppressor, but people that's on the inside of the wall is, what's the name? So I'm gonna play it, and it'll give you a little bit more background on it. All right.
With another camp planned for the 5th Macedonica, 550 meters further back. As the legions moved into place, Titus rode ahead to personally survey the defenses. On the morning of April 23rd, he set off with 600 horsemen, following the road that led to the main gate of the third wall.
However, the terrain was uneven and cluttered with gardens, olive groves, hedges, fences, walls, and stone structures which had been knocked down by the defenders. In other words, he walked into a maze of obstacles. All of a sudden, Jewish forces burst out of the gate and swarmed the Roman column, cutting it in half. Cavalry men in the rear bolted out into the open country they had come.
Y'all can hear it?
Meanwhile, Titus and his escorts were left behind. The general had
so this is showing how it was done.
Breastplate for the expedition, but nonetheless drew his sword and led a charge to break out. According to Josephus, he, quote, diverted those perpetually with his sword that came on his side, overturned many of those that directly met him, and made his horse right over those that were overthrown, end quote. The encounter was a close call, but ultimately the Romans were able to cut their way through, though they lost several men and left many injured. Titus was likely shaken by the event and eager to get the siege underway. He ordered the 10th Fretensis to move even closer and began constructing entrenchments atop the Mount of Olives. However, the Jews were emboldened by their new success and decided to follow up with a massive assault. Sorties poured out of the eastern and southern gateways, their sights set on the working legionaries. Fighters streamed across the Kidron Valley and descended upon the half-built camp of the 10th Fretensis. The Romans were caught completely off guard. Jewish troops started cutting down their disorganized opponents, while more reinforcements rushed out from the city to complete the rout. Titus attacked the flank with his bodyguard, which was enough to force the mob back down the ravine. The 10th Fretensis resumed work, only to come under a second assault from Jews who had been steadily bringing in more and more men. This ferocious attack overwhelmed the Roman force on the low ground. Many of the soldiers fled for the heights, while Titus and a band of troops attempted to hold the line. Soon after, the legionaries regrouped and counterattacked.
We was out there. We was fighting these motherfuckers.
In the ensuing lull, the camp fortifications were finally completed. This secured the Roman forward position, but left everyone with a reminder that the strength of the Jewish defense had been dangerously underestimated. In response, Titus now took precautions against further counterattacks. He posted cavalry divisions to deflect attacks and ordered that the ground between the Roman camps and the walls be cleared of all obstructions. This meant cutting down trees, flattening hedges, filling in ditches, and destroying rock projections. This had the dual purpose of removing any cover for Jewish sorties, as well as preparing the ground for siege works. The Roman army had effectively rolled up its sleeves. It was time to get to work.
Hold on. It's like,
No medical exams on policies under 1 million.
A friend recommended getting life insurance through Ethos.
Titus recognized the hardship of attacking from the east where the ravines were steepest. As a result, he decided to focus on the western flank of the third wall. The 10th Fretensis was left to hold the Mount of Olives, while the three remaining legions were redeployed. The 5th Macedonica built a camp 400 meters west of the western gate, while the 12th and 15th legions established themselves opposite the Sophia's tower. Artillery positions were now deployed with their sights set on the city. Under their covering fire, each legion began constructing an earth and timber ramp up to the third.
You know what a legion is, right? A legion is how many men? I think it's
an attack party slowed
something
construction
like
at
that.
all times of night and day. However,
Just to give you an idea of like how forceful they came. It's 10,000.
1,000 something. I think it's 1,000.
The attackers
It's,
completed their ramps, and soon were slowly
6,000,
moving battered
between
rams
4,000 and
in
6,000 soldiers. They had more than one legion. You see what I'm saying? So they got legion over here, legion over here, legion over there. You know what I mean?
Defenders. Militia units from
We were
around the
fighting.
city swarmed into place to pelt the crews and their guards with missiles from above, while raiding parties attacked the engines on foot from postern doors.
See, we was tearing their ass up. I hate the fact that they make them all white. You know what I mean?
Right.
But you know, people inside
Brave
is the black.
defenders fought their way up to the ram's protective sheds and were poised to destroy the equipment before Titus led a cavalry attack to drive them off. Before ramming was resumed, Roman engineers built 3 siege towers, which were too heavy to be overturned and which were also fireproofed. These were then rolled into place to provide close fire support.
They
for
built some
construction
shit.
and clear the area of defenders.
They built the shit out there in the open.
On the 15th day of the siege, the rams broke through the third wall. The Jews yielded the outer city to the Romans and withdrew to the second wall. Titus was eager to keep the momentum rolling and established a camp in the heart of the new city, tearing down many structures in the process. The Rams
They built a camp inside
once again
of our
and
shit.
targeted the central tower gate.
Now, is this accurate?
Within
Yeah.
4 days, a breach was
Yeah.
formed.
Mm-hmm.
The legionaries formed up and advanced through the narrow gap. However, they were met with eerie silence.
The armies encircled us.
As the troops advanced
wouldn't
cautiously
allow no
through the
food,
seemingly
nothing,
deserted
and they
streets,
basically
there were all of a
starved
sudden
us.
attacks
That's
from all
coming.
directions.
Yeah.
I see that. Now you can
Yeah.
just starve them out, man.
Yeah, it's coming.
You only got one way out.
The trap was now sprung, and Jews began unleashing barrages of missiles into the dense infantry clusters. At the same time, hit-and-run parties attacked any exposed troops who had strayed too far from the main body. In shock, the Romans attempted to retreat back through the breach, but found that it was so narrow that only a few men could get through at a time. This choke point was a prime target for the bowmen and slingers of the defenders. Roman archer units were brought up to provide covering fire and eased up enough pressure to allow for a withdrawal. At the same time, however, the Jewish force was mobilized to surge ahead as the Roman tide receded. They rushed back onto the walls, unloading continual barrages onto the attackers.
Put the siege of Jerusalem in the chat.
Sorties with large blocks of Jews pressed the Romans back while the breach was mended. Josephus recalls that the fighting raged all day long and into the night. Action around the tower gate continued, and by the fourth day, the legions once again broke through. This time,
From Josephus.
The entire northern stretch of the second wall be torn down, and the surrounding towers be manned by Roman forces. The Jews now pulled back to the first wall. This was part of a deliberate plan to carry out a fighting retreat against the Romans, conserving Jewish strength while maximizing their damage. The commanders were finally in a position to make a stand now that the defensive line had a much smaller surface area than at the start of the siege. This meant that the outnumbered Jews could far more readily concentrate forces and rebuff attacks. At this point, overall command of the defense had been granted to Simon, who held the first wall along the northern side up to the royal palace. Johns, Galileans, and Zealots held the Temple Mount and the Antonia fortress on the eastern edge of the line. The legions advanced into the second city. Titus dispatched the 10th and 15th legions to raise ramps to the west, where the second and first walls met. To the east, he had the 5th and 12th legions start construction against the Antonia fortress. They did so under incessant sorties and missile attacks. Historians tell us that the Jewish forces at this point would have been able to bring to bear 300 bolt throwers and 40 stone throwers from the rebel armory. This firepower was considerable and must have forced the Romans to build their own protective countermeasures. On the 29th of May, after 17 days of intense labor and non-stop harassment, the Romans completed their attack paths up to the eastern and western flanks. Battering rams, siege towers, and numerous cohorts were brought up for an all-out assault. However, unbeknownst to the Romans, the Jewish forces had been hard at work themselves. They had secretly conducted sapping operations.
we was digging underneath his wall,
That's what I was thinking.
Against the Antonia. The excavations were supported by pit props, which the Jews set alight. As the fire took its course, the ground gave way and a huge chasm opened up, engulfing the ramps and their siege engines.
Oh, they did that as an offensive.
Yeah, we went under the ground and set their shit on fire.
Once more as the bitumen reignited and burned what remained of the equipment. The Romans had once again fatally underestimated the defenders and were reaping the consequences. To the west, Simon sallied out at night to attack the siege works in his sector of the battlefield. The brave rebels beat back resistance and fought their way to the rams, setting their sheds alight. The fires alarmed the legionaries, who saw their hard work going up in smoke and rushed in to try and pull the rams out of harm's way. They were met by Jewish reinforcements streaming out from postern gates, and a pitched battle ensued. A deadly tug of war followed over the rams, with the rebels finally managing to complete their destruction. The demoralized Romans pulled back. Sensing an opportunity, the Jewish forces swarmed out of the city in pursuit, driving the legions all the way back to their camp. The retreat was stabilized when once again Titus rode to the rescue with his cavalry. Fierce fighting ensued, but the rebels were finally pushed back to the first wall. The Roman siege lines were in shambles. Virtually all of their rams and ramps were smoldering ruin by morning, and the morale of the legions must have been in a similar state. It was approaching the hottest part of the year now. Water was running low, and building material was becoming increasingly hard to come by. Nonetheless, Titus launched an ambitious plan to restore the spirit and security of the men. His plan called for the construction of an 8-kilometer wall of circumvallation with 13 forts.
See that?
To do this, he leveraged the
Look,
proud nature
he
of
built.
the
See that?
troops
That's him
by
building the
having
wall.
legions and cohorts challenge one another.
What are they trying to do
Being the
today?
first to complete their
With
allotted portion
under
of the
Trump.
wall.
Build a wall.
Relatively
That's
safe
their spirit.
from Jewish attacks,
Look, that's
the
the wall.
legionaries were free to reforge their unit cohesion through competitive labor. The result was a stunning success.
We could just leave.
Within 3 days, the entire structure was completed. Morale amongst the Romans was restored, while the Jews were left with a stunning sign that the Roman war machine wasn't backing down. If anything, things had just shifted into high gear.
Remember, it said be to those that give suck in those days, you know, because remember these women that are there, they got to get food.
Can't believe their eyes.
Right.
It's absolutely shocking.
We have 4 different videos recorded from 4 different angles. These people don't know each other.
What the
We
hell?
have preliminary results. It appears to have some
Oh, I'm gonna-
anomalies that are very interesting.
What the hell happened? Hold on. Oh, okay. Okay, there you're going crazy now.
With the completion of the
Okay, let me jump back. Hold on. All right, let me jump back in here. All right, so just to give everybody an idea of just give them like, okay, what's going on here? All right, so the what's going on now, what y'all watching is the siege of Jerusalem. All right, now it's basically showing you how it happened, how we was taken over and conquered by the Romans. All right, so you got any questions before we move on? No. All right, no sweat. So we're gonna keep it going. Hold on, let me just bring this up. Hold on, give me 1 second. Jerusalem. All right, I just had to bring it up again because somehow it. All right, there we go. Give me 1 second.
the completion of the wall of
All
circumvallation.
right, there we go. All right, let me just add it in. And yeah, when you add it in, all you gotta do is make sure you click this button right here, share audio, and then go to Chrome tab, and it's usually this one here. And then
The noose around Jerusalem was finally pulled tight. Previously, citizens had been able to slip out at night to collect supplies from the countryside,
but now this proved impossible. Any rebels caught outside the walls were crucified as a terrifying example of Rome's wrath.
see that?
While even
Crucified.
those who defected willingly were often gutted by troops who believed their stomachs would be filled with precious items ingested for concealment.
They'll crucify you. Soon as
Inside,
they caught you outside the wall
rapidly
trying to roll.
deteriorated. The defenders were reduced to eating pets and boiling hay.
See that?
Disturbing reports also mentioned instances of
Oh, you hear me?
infantile cannibalism taking place. Now, in the 10th week of the siege, Titus ordered all forces to concentrate their assault on the Antonia fortress. The full-scale assault began with the mobilization of archers and artillery to suppress the walls, while 2 battering rams moved into position and men armed with crowbars took aim at the foundation blocks of the towers. Despite great efforts made the first day, the Romans were forced to withdraw for the night without making any noticeable gains. Unbeknownst to both sides, however, the heavy activity in the area took a toll on the structural stability of the fortress. The mine, which had previously brought down the Roman siege ramps, had also undermined the Antonia. A heavy rain, combined with the pressure of the men and the machinery at work, provided the straw that broke the camel's back. In the dead of night, the northern wall of the fortress collapsed. At first light, the Romans positioned themselves for a direct assault through the breach. Once again, however, the Jews were one step ahead and had already constructed another secondary wall on the other side. Unwilling to give up the nighttime gift, Titus asked for volunteers to tackle the fortifications head-on. A handful of brave men volunteered, no doubt encouraged by the promise of rich reward. This gang took heavy fire as they ran up to the barricade, but managed to scramble over the top. The attackers proved too few, and with no reinforcements on the way, were inevitably slaughtered. The failure of this mission in full sight of the Roman army sapped their will to fight. A tentative stalemate ensued. 2 days later, in the early morning, 24 enterprising Romans, including a standard bearer from the 5th Macedonica and a trumpeter, decided to attack on their own initiative. The men silently climbed the ruins of the Antonia fortress and slit the throats of the sentries. With the barricade now secured, the trumpeter sounded a signal. This blast within the walls threw the Jews into a panic as they jolted awake from their sleep. Imagining that the entire Roman army was upon them, they fled to the Temple Mount. Meanwhile, the Roman command was equally confused but knew something had to be done. Titus, along with his officers, collected picked men from the units and immediately sent them towards the sound of the trumpet. When the Jews realized that the Romans were not hot on their heels, cooler heads prevailed and they rallied. Militias streamed into the courtyard as it soon became apparent that the real Roman forces would now certainly be on their way. If they gained a foothold in the sanctuary, all was lost. Both sides realized that this was the case and plunged into the darkness towards the passages linking the Antonia to the Temple Mount. Brutal fighting occurred in the close quarter confines that dragged on for nearly 10 hours. In the end, the fury of the Jews, fed by constant reinforcements, prevailed over the Romans, who sounded the retreat, thus ending the first battle of the Temple. Titus ordered the men to raise the Antonia on his side of the battle lines, and within a week was ready to renew the attack. 7,200 legionaries, picked from 30 of the best troops from each century, were mustered at night on July 17th. These men silently shuffled towards the ruins of the Antonia for a surprise attack. Jewish sentries, however, picked up on the advance and sounded the alarm. In some areas, Roman forces were able to cut their way past the previous week's high water mark. However, in the obscurity of the night, chaos reigned. This was made even worse by the fact that the rebels had equipped themselves with captured Roman gear to the point that many legionaries and Jewish units ended up bumping into and fighting friendly forces. The combat was so confused that it proved virtually impossible to capitalize on any gains either side made. When the sun eventually began to rise, some degree of order was finally restored. Josephus reports that both sides now separated and drew up into ragged battle lines at the edges of the sanctuary's northern edge. Missiles began to fly, and a savage pitched battle developed. Titus attempted to orchestrate an organized attack, but the tight confines again rendered this futile. By midday, it became apparent that no gains would be made, and the second battle of the temple was called off. Clearly, it would be impossible to punch a hole through the Jewish bottleneck. Titus thus resolved to broaden the scale of the attack. In the peak of the summer heat, he ordered 4 more ramps to be built against the northwestern corner of the Temple Mount. In response, the Jews massed their missiles at the walls and sent forth continuous waves of skirmishers and sorties to harass the work crews. Nonetheless, the legions steadily made progress. With the works nearing completion, the defenders tore down the northwestern corner of the temple colonnade, severing connection between the defensive parapets and the remaining elements of the Antonia. This effectively removed a key avenue the Romans were hoping to use as an attack route. At the same time, a major sally was attempted against the Roman wall of circumvallation at the Mount of Olives. Though unsuccessful, this assault once again attested to the boldness of the defenders. A cornered beast was certainly a force to be reckoned with. On the 27th of July, Roman work parties building a ramp against the broken end of the western colonnade spotted an opportunity. It appeared that Jewish activity on the other fronts had caused a withdrawal of defensive forces in the area. The legions rushed forward with ladders for an immediate assault by escalade. Hundreds of troops now swarmed onto the undefended walls, with many more following behind them. However, the Jewish retreat had been a trap. In the previous days, they had secretly filled the rafters with dry wood and bitumen, which they now set alight. The entire sector of the wall burst into flames, with the Roman assault troops caught in the inferno. This occurred in sight of both armies and provided a tremendous morale boost to the defenders. The Romans proved wary of another escalade assault and instead tried to breach the walls with rams and picks. For days, they worked around the clock in relays to undermine the defensive fortifications. They did so under a continuous bombardment of missiles and harassment. Eventually, Several huge blocks were pried loose, but the thick construction of the Temple Mount defied all attempts at destruction. Titus must have been unimaginably frustrated. Desperate for results, he ordered another storming of the walls. The results were predictably bloody. Roman troops climbing the ladders were dangerously exposed. Many found themselves toppled in their attempts to scale the walls, while others finally managed to reach the top under continual artillery and archer covering fire, only to be left isolated. Those that did make it up were vastly outnumbered and slaughtered. Roman centurions resorted to throwing legionary eagles onto the walls in a bid to motivate the proud soldiers to retrieve them. However, even this desperate measure proved fruitless and only resulted in the death of even more bullheaded attackers. The increasingly costly assault was abandoned. Rather than abandon all hope, Titus made preparations for yet another attack on the temple in the beginning of August. The objective would be to finally push through the bottleneck at the Antonia and move out onto the open spaces of the courtyard, where the legions would gain the necessary space to fight effectively. Archers and artillery were massed in and around the ruins of the Antonia. These began to target the defenders holding out at the north end of the temple complex. Once they had cleared, Roman troops burnt out and tore down the entire northern colonnade. This would allow the attackers to deploy along the entire width of the plaza, while at the same time stripping away a crucial Jewish defensive position. While the northern battlements were now destroyed, sight lines were opened up onto the other flanking battlement positions. The defenders stationed here found themselves dangerously exposed and were forced to pull back. The Jewish line of defense was reformed and now cut across the center of the Temple Mount, with the temple itself serving as a central bastion. It is around this time that the gravest of ill omens took place. This spiritual crisis involved the daily sacrifice of lamb to Yahweh. Like clockwork, the priests had upheld the holy rite of Tamid amidst the bloodshed and starvation of the siege. But on the 5th of August, the last of the sacrificial lambs ran out. Now, at the height of the siege, with the Romans advancing, the Jews lost their connection to God. The stage was now set for a fight over the very heart of Jerusalem, the Temple Mount. The left end of the ragged Jewish line was stationed at the western gate with access to the upper city. The right flank was anchored on the opposite side of the colonnade at Solomon's portico. The center of the line ran through the temple and its inner court. The Romans held the north, the Jews the south. Both sides were prepared for a fateful duel within the enormous gladiatorial arena that was the Temple Mount complex. In the center of the battlefield was the linchpin of the Jewish defenses, the inner temple. Just like the Temple Mount, the temple was surrounded by a wall with wide fighting platforms atop a series of perimeter colonnades. The eastern half of the compound was known as the Court of Women. This was then connected to the western half by another wall and the Corinthian Gate. On the other side lay the Court of the Israelites, and beyond that, the Court of the Priests. At the very end lay the Holy of Holies, a 45-meter tall, white marble edifice adorned with enormous golden gates and topped by golden points. This was said to be the very house of God, in which only the high priest entered on the Day of Atonement. In fact, the entire inner temple was normally off limits to all but a select few. Extraordinary circumstances, however, call for extraordinary measures, and the holy spaces today were packed with defenders. Despite being exhausted and on the verge of starvation, the Jews attacked at dawn on August 9th. Troops burst out of the eastern gate and rushed the Roman lines in force. The surprised legions reeled from the punch, but managed to hold their ground. Once more, Titus had his cavalry mount up and charge across the open ground. The small group of horses crashed into the Jewish mob, sending shockwaves through the mass of men. However, the attack failed to dissuade the rebels, and the third battle of the temple began. This engagement was characterized by a confused series of attacks and counterattacks along the eastern end of the sanctuary. Jewish defenders offered supporting fire from atop. Romans held the north. The holy spaces today were packed with defenders. Despite being began, this engagement was characterized by a confused series of attacks The fighting raged on for moments. However, in the close press below, a pair of legionaries were seized by impulse. One grabbed a piece of flaming debris, while the other hoisted him up against the north side of the temple. From this elevation, he lobbed the burning timber through a low golden door into the sanctuary chambers. In the summer heat, the highly flammable timbers and textiles took light. Thick, black smoke billowed into the air as fire spread rapidly, to the stunned amazement of both sides. The fire rapidly spiraled out of control, threatening to consume the countless sacred texts and treasures within the temple. The Jews were left paralyzed between choosing to fight the flames or the Romans. The legions seized on the initiative and plunged forward without orders. They battered down the eastern gates and penetrated the inner court of the temple. In this moment, at the climax of a grueling 3-month siege, the attackers gave way to their bestial nature. Soldiers broke free from their officers, controlled only by a toxic psychological state of repressed rage and frustration. Pity was the first casualty, soon followed by a butchery of all those who did not flee the hellscape. The young, the old, the helpless, all were put to the sword. This bloodlust would only be matched in intensity by greed. Roman soldiers plunged into the flaming complex, intent on making off with treasures inside. The frenzy reached a fever pitch where Roman troops were being trampled to death by their comrades. The arrival of Titus seemed to have little effect on the state of the men. This was often a natural occurrence in the final stages of a siege, when even the ablest of commanders could do nothing to restrain the wild passions of soldiers. Eventually, the delirium subsided when the temple was picked clean by both men and flames. Chants of Imperator, Imperator, Imperator greeted Titus as he ordered the sacrifice of an ox, a sheep, and a pig at the eastern gate of the temple. With this move, he consummated the domination of the Roman gods over that of the Jews. Though the Temple Mount had fallen, Jewish resistance in the rest of Jerusalem had not. Simon's militia and those who had escaped the smoldering ruins of the temple regrouped atop the entrenched positions in the upper city and Herod's palace. From here, they faced off against the legions across the Tyrrhene Valley. A parley was held atop a bridge linking the two sides. The Jewish commanders, Simon and John, attempted to bargain for their free passage out of Jerusalem. Titus, however, was emboldened by his recent victory and demanded no less than an unconditional surrender. When talks broke down, the legions were unleashed on the lower city in a demonstration of force. For 2 days, they hacked their way through tight alleys and rooftops, cutting down rebels and non-combatants alike. Fires were also set to clear out any survivors from the lower districts. The flames did tremendous damage to life and property. They also engulfed vast quantities of dead bodies in various stages of decay, filling the air with a horrid stench. All that remained now was the last stronghold of Herod's palace. This fortress was dominated by strong walls and a ring of towers ranging from 25 to 40 meters tall. In addition, the buildings of the upper city blocked a clear line of approach, while numerous underground passages could allow the Jews to carry out effective sorties against incoming siege works. The Romans had faced significant trouble against similar defenses already and were not eager to try it once more. Instead, the attackers opted to mount their assault from the west, flanking from outside the walls of Jerusalem. All 4 legions now massed in the Hinnom Valley and began construction of a final set of siege ramps. Allied and auxiliary troops within Jerusalem also set to work on their own platforms against the upper city, located at the Viaduct, the Gymnasium, and Simon's Tower. Resources and manpower for the Romans were extremely sparse. This delayed construction to a degree, but the projects were inevitably completed by the end of 2.5 weeks. On September 7th, the Romans were able to bring up the remaining rams and begin battering down the walls. The Jewish forces at this point were so weakened that for the first time, they did not lead sorties out against the siege equipment. Defenders attempted to offer resistance from the top of the walls, but were easily swept aside by mass fire of Roman projectiles. Sections of the western wall began to crumble. Legionaries punched their way through the breaches against a defensive force that was quickly disintegrating. It seems that the reality of a final defeat swept in with the Roman troops and captured the battlements more quickly than any sword could. The high towers of the Hippicus, the Phasael, and the Miriam were all abandoned as survivors either gave in to the inevitable or went to ground. The Jewish leaders, along with groups of dedicated fighters, ran in all directions, desperately seeking to find a way through the Roman lines. Many were caught by Roman street patrols, while others resorted to crawling through sewers or even attempted to tunnel their way out of the city. In the end, both Simon and John were captured alive. They, along with 700 other young men, would be sent to Rome to be put on full display for the eventual triumph of Titus. All remaining males of the age of 17 and above were shackled and sentenced to death, either in the mines of Egypt or in the gladiatorial arenas around the empire. The women and children were taken to the slave markets. All told, we have no accurate figures for how many lives were extinguished or enslaved as a result of the sacking of Jerusalem. Josephus would have us believe that over 1.1 million were killed, while Tacitus offers a more plausible 600,000. These numbers both seem wildly inflated, but may be an indication of the carnage that took place when Titus resolved on destroying a highly populated city filled with refugees and pilgrims. We have only to look at the modern sieges like Stalingrad to imagine the horrors which befell the numerous non-combatants trapped within the walls. Back in Rome, Emperor Vespasian was busy preparing the stage for the honorable return of his son. The victory at Jerusalem warranted a triumph and would be used as a centerpiece for the legitimization of the Flavian dynasty. When the time came, Titus would parade down the streets of Rome atop a chariot at the head of a procession glorifying the conquests in the east. Soldiers and captives marched down the streets in full regalia alongside floats depicting dramatic scenes from the campaign. Vast amounts of treasure were also on display, including the great seven-branch menorah. The crowning moment of the festivities involved the flaying and ritual strangulation of Simon Gioras, who had served as the overall commander of the Jewish forces during the siege. While the revolt may have been symbolically crushed, Jewish resistance would burn on until the final Roman suppression of Masada in 73 AD. Though this would bring about the conclusion of the first Jewish revolt, there would be several more to follow, each with increasing levels of devastation. The Siege of Jerusalem stands out as one of the most brutal examples of classical-era total war since the fall of Carthage 200 years earlier. Humans did this. Hundreds of thousands of babies, cradled by mothers, grew up through millions of unique experiences only to find themselves all at Jerusalem. Each of their stories worthy of its own novel, unraveled one way or another.
All right, now, okay, so you wanted to say something? I'm sorry.
So like, if I may, it was something how they depicted the Jews that were fighting as white, but when it came to the slave market, you finally seen a black face.
Yeah.
They only depicted us as slaves, not as soldiers.
As the real Jews, right. Yeah. So, of course, with right, it's psychological. And, like with anything, of course, how like, we gotta look at these videos and stuff like that and know that it's two sides of oppressors. So we gotta understand, like in your mind, okay, this is the Jews, these are the blacks, right. Hispanics, the so-called aliens. These are us who are fighting against this outside oppressor who's trying to take us over. And it kind of gave you a, it's kind of cheesy, I guess, you know what I mean, the reenactment or whatever, but it kind of gives you an idea of like what we actually went through and how we was, fighting back. And, it wasn't easy for them, you know what I mean? But what did they do? They built that wall, though. See how they built that wall? Just like how today, that's their spirit. Their spirit is to build a wall around something. You know what I mean? And it just kind of, it's good, man. Just so you can see, you know what I mean? So let's read Luke 22, 21 and 23. Luke 21 and 23.
Luke 21, verse 23. But woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give suck. In those days, for there shall be great distress in the land.
Right. So this is Christ, right? And so Christ is telling you, like, because remember, when they built that wall, it wasn't no food going in or out. You know, it wasn't nothing going in, nothing going out. It was just straight up, just the way it was, and we had to figure it out. You know what I mean? Well, what we had. So he's saying that woe unto them that give suck in those days, right? Go ahead.
And wrath upon his people.
Mm-hmm.
Verse 24. And they shall fall by the edge of the sword.
What did he even say? Didn't the narrator say that? He said they fell by the edge of the sword. Right, because that's how we all died. Because why? Because of our disobedience to the Lord.
Right.
Because of our disobedience to the Lord had to show us. You know what I mean? Like he had to show us what a nation that was going to come against us that wouldn't regard the people of the old, the young. So it's actually the perfect punishment. Because there's no way we can get out of it. You know what I mean? Like by now, if it was Chinese people that had us in captivity, by now with enough Black Lives Matter events, enough marching, the Chinese people will say, you know what, you're right. Right? Y'all are our people. Right. But we're under a people that we're under those same people now. And those people now, they don't regard the people of the old. We can have 1 million interviews and 1 million meetings, but 1 million marching, million man march.
Yeah, right.
And nothing happens because they are the most vilest people that we could ever be under. And that's the Lord doing that. Not because the Lord wanted to do it, it's because that's what we chose. We chose to be in this position. And when we choose to be out of it, we will. And that's what you're seeing right now. Right? Go ahead.
And shall be led away captive into all nations.
Just like we are today. Go ahead.
And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles.
Right. This is actually talking about other nations. So Jerusalem right now, who's over in Jerusalem right now? Right. But more specifically, who are they?
They're not us, right?
The Israelis, Gentiles.
Right.
The Palestinians, Gentiles.
Right.
Africans, Gentiles.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Just like Christ said it would be. Go ahead.
Until the times of the Gentiles to be fulfilled.
Right, until their time is up for them not to be there anymore.
Right.
Then we'll go over there. So you can't try to sneak into the kingdom of heaven. You know, a lot of cats try to sneak in there. You know, go there since the 70s, go stay in Dimona. Yeah, you try to sneak in there real quick. Right. Nah, it don't work that way. And what happens when they try to sneak? They got to go and serve in the army for 2 years.
Right.
In Israel. You gotta serve. In order to get citizenship in Israel, you gotta serve in the army for 2 years. The military. Go ahead.
And then you still get treated as a subclass citizen and get kicked out and treated like a nigga.
Yeah, you could. Yeah. So don't think for a minute that you just gonna move over there and you could just join the army for 2 years and that's gonna be fine. You're gonna make it out. No, you could have a very, very real chance of dying in that army because they're gonna put you right on the front line against some Palestinians that's over there. And guess what? Them Palestinians are fighting back. So, you know. You can't try to sneak back in the kingdom of heaven. A lot of cats tried that already. You gotta get back in there the right way, the right path. You know what I mean? And it doesn't mean leaving all your people here to go try to sneak back over there and get it, be next to it. No, it's about getting your people together here, and then we get in a dominant position where we can, have enough footing to where we can, offset attacks that will come at us, and that's what we have to do here. Don't what's that scripture? Hold on 1 second.
Stock said, why you looking for that scripture? Captain Kaposh said that shit was epic, warrior. Great class. That was. I ain't never seen that video before. That was epic. Like that was a good visual as to what our people went through in 70 AD.
Yeah, Most High in Christ.
Right.
KJV.
What scripture is that you looking for?
It might be Matthew 23. Hold on 1 second. Matthew 23. I need land to ye go land to proselytize.
Oh.
Okay, here we go. 23 and 15. Matthew 23 and 15. Oh, Most High in Christ, sir. Let me post that comment right there. All right, Most High in Christ. That's Captain Kaposh. That mean a lot. That mean a lot coming from him. Right. So that kind of gave that kind of gave us an idea of what was going on, so you could actually see it. Right. All right. So you got it, Warrior. Mike.
Matthew chapter 23, verse 15. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites.
You there, Kazakaba? All right.
Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites.
So this is how you want to say this. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites. That's how you want to read that. Go ahead.
All right. Let me start from the top.
Go ahead. You got it.
Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites. For ye can pass sea and land to make one
proselyte.
Proselyte.
Let me see that. Hold on. Definition of proselyte.
Here's the definition of proselytizing. The action of attempting to convert someone from one religion, belief, or opinion to another.
All right, so this is what these cats are doing now. They're it says, "One, two, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you can pass sea and land." So they're going from here all the way the hell over to Africa to convert one person to be an Israelite. When you got niggas in Detroit, Florida, niggas all over this place. Go ahead.
Hey, Salaki, sir, if I may. The Purple Bandits doing the exact same thing, going over to Africa, General butt naked.
Yeah.
Making him trying to make him a proselyte and making him twofold
child
of hell.
Right.
This is scripture.
Right. The scripture's there. Yes, there's Israelites in Vietnam. Right? They're there. But we have to be in a dominant position before we start to go and get them. Right? We can't be thin here and then go try to get everybody else. We got to get straight first. Us here, the niggas in Detroit, the niggas in Philly, the niggas in New York, niggas in Wilmington, Delaware, the niggas down in Smyrna, the niggas down in Dover, the niggas down your way, Lincoln, and Sussex County. We got to get the niggas together first. We got to get the Hispanics here in the barrios, right? We got to get the Mexicans together. We got to get the people here first. Then we're in a dominant position where we can go out there and get a footing in other countries.
That's right.
But how's it going to work if you can pass in land and sea to go get one? You flying over Detroit. You're flying over all these places to go somewhere to get one person. When you got all the people here that are suffering. Right. This is where we need to be. We need to focus our time and effort here first. We'll add them on later. They will be here. There's no doubt about that. I know that there's black people that's in Vietnam. Yes, those soldiers was over there having sex with those Vietnamese women during the Vietnam War.
That's right.
There's niggas over there that look just like they're Vietnamese, and they speak Vietnamese and everything, but they're Judah. You know what I'm saying? They're Isupk. They're Ephraim.
Right.
That's right over there in Vietnam right now. There's Germans that are over there. Germans that are Judah. You know what I mean? But right now, what we need to do is focus here first. And get our stronghold here first. And we can go out there and try to get them. You know what I mean? It just makes perfect logical sense. But you're gonna skip over all the hoods to go over to Africa and try to figure out who's who in Africa? you know, you kind of being counterproductive here, right? You just trying to really just get numbers, I guess. That's what it's about, right? You want a big bag with this, you know, with the ties. You know, you want a big bag. I guess that's what it is. All right. So read it one more time, Warrior.
Matthew chapter 23, verse 15. Woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for ye compare sea and land to make one proselyte. And when he is made, ye make him twofold, more than one child of hell.
You make him twofold. That's what they do. Right. You know, he gets the red carpet laid out because he's from Virginia. I mean, not Virginia. He's from Vietnam. So he gets the twofold. You laid out. We're Israelites.
Right.
We're the Israelites. We're the Israelites, and we just want to let you know that we are the chosen of God. Right. Like, God damn. But the nigga that's in the hood, you like, get away from me, you goddamn bum. Right. Well, because he comes from a nation that's, you know, got a little something, you make them twofold. Go ahead.
You make him twofold, more the child of hell than yourself.
Right. More the niggas that's going through hell than yourself. Right? You make them more than you. The niggas that's over here going through hell. That's what these churches do. That's what these fake Israelite groups do. Mm-hmm. That's what they do. They come into school and get all the goddamn, you know, say so. They come in and you make them, what do you think? Right? Right? Yeah. And this is what Christ is saying. Go ahead.
If I may, that happened with Joy Morgan.
Yeah.
And putting him
man, thank you. Can you say that one more time, please?
God, sir, that happened with Joy Morgan with this fake Israelite group, making him us when he's and they made him twofold.
Making him twofold. Already, as soon as he find out he is Israelite, you give him one of our sisters.
Right.
Well, I don't even know if he's an Israelite, but the point is, right? But the point I'm trying to make is that as soon as oh yeah, I'm an Israelite. Oh yeah, I'm down with y'all. I want a wife. I want a good Jewish sister from America. You know, let me get up in that. And then who they say? Oh yeah, we got a sister right here that just came to school. This is a good sister for you right here. And then Joy Morgan gets with this African, and the next thing you know, he ends up killing her and putting her to death over there.
Right.
You know, you gotta relax, doggy. You gotta chill. Yeah, you know, you gotta be smart too. We ain't stupid out here. The Lord didn't give us the spirit to be dumb asses. Go ahead.
We got more than enough work in our own backyard, right here.
More than enough work
here in America,
right?
That we don't have to go. This is our field right here in America. We got plenty of people in Wilmington, Delaware, at least to hear what we're teaching.
Right, exactly.
I mean? And in every city in America.
You feel me? Like, he's absolutely right. So it's like when we in a dominant position where we got a bunch of people that look, we together, we Israelites. Then when we see, you know, Vietnamese come and say, you know, we're Israel, you know, I believe we're Israelites too. You know, my father was, you know, Michael Johnson. My father was Michael Johnson. He was in the 44th Battalion of the U.S. Army, you know, or the U.S. Marines or whatever. And he was over here, you know, he got my mom. Her name was Sue Young. You know what I'm saying? My mom's name is Sue Young, but my dad's name is Jerome Jackson. You know what I mean? And he's from Texas or he's from New York. Then we can say, well, goddamn. Well, welcome home, brother. You know what I'm saying? Because we in a position where we have a solid footing, so we can say, okay, yeah, we can start to accept those Israelites from other countries.
So like, if I may,
no, you good.
Like a perfect example would be like Naomi Osaka. Her dad was a Levite.
Right, exactly.
And then you got another example where Dennis Rodman got children in Korea.
Right, in Korea.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, we're like scripture says, we are in every nation that is under. We're in every nation.
Every nation, and you know what? I seen a movie where it was a Vietnamese girl. She was black, but because her dad was black, but her mom was Vietnamese, and she was speaking in Vietnamese to her mom and stuff like that. And then when she would talk to her father, she would like, "Yeah, so what's going on?" You know what I mean? Like, and she looked straight like she was Vietnamese, but she looked like she was black. Like, y'all remember Tyler Perry? Remember that Tyler Perry? What's that? House of Pain? Remember the girl? She was a barber, and she looked like she was like, she looked like she was like Chinese or something like that. Yeah. Okay, her mom is black, right? And her dad is Chinese, right? Okay, so so that's not the best example, but the example I'm trying to show you is that she looks black, but she's really Chinese. Yeah, she's really Chinese. Or like somebody like Angela Yee. You know, like Angela Yee. Yeah, Angela Yee. Yeah. And Angela Yee's father is black, I believe. No, her mother is black. Yeah, her mother is black and her father's Chinese. Right. But just flip it around.
Right.
Well, the father's black and she would look just like Angela Yee. Somebody like that. Or, the girl from House of Pain or whatever, that was a barber. They would look just like that. You know what I mean? All right, man. So hopefully that helped you to understand a little bit about the siege of Jerusalem. You got any questions on it? Did it help you to understand a little bit?
I just taught me to endure. Like, it went like 3 months. Like, little stuff I'm going through. Like, why can I just get through that shit? They wasn't eating.
No,
5 years.
Yeah.
You said 5 years?
Yeah, it was 5 years. They was on the siege 5 years, not 3 months.
5 years.
Yeah. So check this out, right? They was coming up to the wall, right? They would come up to the wall, and we was shooting them with bow and arrows and everything, right? Shooting them, turn them up. So they started figuring out ways to come up like this, get up to the wall, and start trying to chip the wall away. Right. But we was on the top of the wall pouring hot wax down on them, pouring hot sap. You know what I mean? Boiling hot, pouring it on them from the top of the wall. And they just trying to figure out ways to get into the wall, and they just kept going. They were relentless. And it just shows you that when the Lord is against us, there's nothing we can do. And I look at like, us. I probably was one of the ones that was fighting in the wall. Right. We was probably those people, you know what I mean? I was fighting and kept fighting and kept fighting and kept fighting. And then we just kept losing and lost. And then we just had to deal with they put us in up against a lion.
Right.
Put us in the Coliseum, up against, they put you two or three of us in the Coliseum, put us in the joint, and then let out 3-4 lions to see what happened, So then the sisters, they made them part of harems and stuff like that, sold them into slavery, and then a lot of those sisters was in some, a lot of Esau's harems and stuff like that he had. Back in the day, it wasn't nothing that we could do to save those sisters out of that. You know what I mean? And then the people, go ahead.
So if I may, they made it a point in that video to say that something to the fact that the Roman gods defeated the gods of the Israelites.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You see that? And then look, man, and then if y'all know anything about Rome, it's a book you can get called. Let me see. Where's it at? Oh man. Okay, that's all right. It's not up there. Oh man, Slovakia. Let me see.
If you remember, while you're still looking at that, there was a movie called Britannia that I seen, and one of the clips out of that scene says, if you want to destroy a people, you kill their god. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he was a Roman. This was a Roman that was in this movie that was saying this. And that was their strategy.
Mm-hmm.
You defeat their god, you're going to defeat the people because they're not going to believe in their god anymore.
Right, exactly. And the book I was going to bring out, y'all, Salaki, didn't see it, but it's called 12 Caesars. And it's about Rome, man. And I'll tell you what, the Romans were notoriously known for homosexuality.
Right.
They were notoriously known for that. And what they would do is, like the kids, oh man, you could imagine what they did with the kids. And then, and just seeing like all the destruction, man. Some of us, we died, at the hands of a lion. A lion ate you to death, and then the rest of us were just slaves or eunuchs or whatever they could come up with. But the rest of us that were there, we ran into Africa, because what's the best way to hide from the oppressor? You hide around people that got the same skin color.
Right.
So when we was in Africa, we had a precedence over those Africans because we had our laws and everything else. And then once the slave trade came through, which was what Moses said what would happen, it did come to pass. And then the Africans that were there on the land, they sold us into captivity. They didn't sell their own people. That's dumb.
You had called the scripture earlier about when we had, but you used the word mountains. Was it when Christ?
Went to Egypt. Yeah. I think it was like what, Matthew 2 and something.
2 verse 13.
All right, 2 and 13. Let's get it.
Come. I got it.
You got it, warrior.
Book of Matthew, chapter 2, verse 13. And when they were departed, behold, the angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream, saying, Arise, and take the young child and his mother, and flee into Egypt, and be thou there until I bring thee word. For Herod will seek the young child to destroy him.
Right. So how did Christ hide from? How did you hide Christ from the so-called white man? Was hide him around other black people.
Right.
People with the same skin color. That's how you blend it in. So when they coming around, they don't know because they're all different. They're a different race of people. So all together, all the dark people look like we're all together, but we're not. We're different people, of course. But that's the way you would hide. And so that's how he hid from Herod by going into Egypt. So they don't know all the kids look alike, right? Damn, it's kind of hard to find who you're looking for when they don't have fingerprinting and all that kind of stuff that they have today. You just gotta kind of just look for the nigga. You know what I mean?
Right.
Go ahead.
And they were so bloodthirsty, sir. They were so bloodthirsty that they would even issue decree. Anybody 2 years old or younger, kill them. Just kill them. Just kill them.
Right. So hopefully, brother, that helped you a little bit. Know about the siege of Jerusalem, 78. When did it happen?
He said, I remember it was just 5 years, but he said 17, was it AD or something?
No. No. 70 AD.
70 AD.
Yeah, 70 AD.
70 AD.
Who was it? General who?
Titus, right?
Right.
Right.
He became a general. But who was his father? Vespasian. Yeah. His son Titus was an officer in the army, but he ended up becoming a general later on after this victory here. And then he also got the Arch of Titus.
Right. And it started with Salacius. It started with General Pompey.
Yeah, General Pompey.
AD.
Hold on, let me see something. Hold on. I'm gonna show you the Arch of Titus.
That's there now, right?
Yeah, that's there today. Right here. There it go, right there. I don't think they can't see it. All right, it's right here. The Arch of Titus. This is the Colosseum of Vespasian, right here. That actually that's the Colosseum of Vespasian, and that's the Arch of Titus. So if you go to Rome right now, you can actually see that as a tourist. See that?
It's a replica of that in one of the parks in New York.
Yeah.
It's like the gateway to the beginning of the park.
Yeah, well, he got that built in his honor,
right?
Because of the siege of Jerusalem.
They built the same thing, the same archway in New York in a park.
Oh, okay. And then you got the Colosseum of Vespasian, and that is the Colosseum. And where was this built? Oh man, I can't even see it. Well, yeah, you had the Colosseum of Vespasian. This is a timeline of the Bible.
Right.
This book right here, or break, will show you the whole beginning of the script of the Bible. I'm not going to bring it out because there's not even enough space in this room to bring out this whole book. See, but if you look at it, it gives you the whole timeline from Adam and Eve all the way down up into America. Go ahead.
Salak, sir. Like the sister was saying, like they got a replica of that in New York because, like Christ said, the same ones that pierced him, which were the Romans, are the same ones that's going to see him return. So regeneration is the real thing. You know what I mean? It's the same spirit in these people. This is the Roman Empire that we're under now.
Yup. Damn, it's a damn spider up here. I'll let him chill for now. All right. So with that being said, we got the brother. He knows about when it happened.
70 AD.
By General who?
Titus.
And who else?
Vespasian or something.
Vespasian. All right, don't sweat. You want to say something?
Yeah, so like that was the end of it. It started in 65.
65 AD. Oh, gotcha.
Right. All right. No sweat. So I'm gonna bring up Precinct Officer Matazi Allah.
Good class. Both sides crash. No, you're fine.
There you go.
Rules for new brothers and sisters. When a new Isupk Isupk security announcements. Rules for new brothers and sisters. When a new brother or sister comes into the school, they are off limits for 6 months. They are to be saluted only. They are here to learn and share themselves of the world. If they need transportation, a teacher will arrange it. After 6 months, if a brother or sister has an interest in a particular person, they are to seek counsel from the heads. Tithes, which is a commandment. Numbers 18:21, Malachi 3:8-10, means 10th in Hebrew, Ma'ashera. 10% of every penny of any increase belongs to the Lord. Free will offering for the priest, not mandatory. Whatever amount you would like to donate, you can donate for the priest. Upcoming holy convocations, we have the Memorial of Blowing of Trumpets, which is September 6th, which will actually be Sunday, September 5th at sundown. Make sure you are in attendance. This is a high holy day. Make sure you're in attendance. And we have next week. That's next week. We have the cookout in New York. If you have arrangements for that, make sure you show up and support and come out and fellowship with your brothers and sisters. All right. If anyone wants to be a trooper in the school, start wearing all black boots, shirt, pants, headband, and scarf. With that being said, men of Israel, Majim, we will give teacher a courtesy salute. Men of Israel, Majim Shabbat, Majim, Barak, Yahweh Hashem Yahushua Barakatah, Yajmatah, Sar, which means turn. Sisters of Majim, we're going to get a sister a courtesy salute. Men of Israel, Majim Shabbat, Majim, Barak, Yahweh Shemar Al-Tham Ba'Hashem Yahushua, Yajmatah, class dismissed.